Hello, friends and colleagues, and welcome to the Tourism Skillshop, hosted by State of Washington Tourism, SWT. My name is Matthew Ozuna, and I am the Destination Development Manager at SWT. I will introduce today's webinar on Tourism Ambassador Programs. Please utilize the chat in the Zoom, and let us know where you're zooming in from today. Say hello to fellow colleagues and the panelists. I will introduce today's webinar on Tourism Ambassador Programs, but I also want to introduce my colleague on the webinar with us. It's Tamara Rice. She is the Destination Development Coordinator at SWT, excuse me. Tamara will monitor the chat and help address any questions from the audience at the end of the webinar. So folks, feel free to chime in and let folks know where you're coming from today. But also, if you have any questions, you can utilize the chat for those questions at any time during the webinar. Like I said, we'll try to get to most of those questions at the end of the webinar, but if they're important, we'll certainly try to address them in the moment. Now, let's talk about the series, the webinar series in the Tourism Skillshop. The Tourism Skillshop is one of many industry educational programs from State of Washington Tourism. This webinar series will engage with colleagues across the tourism sector and broaden their industry knowledge, skills, and network. Each webinar will highlight a specific issue or skill for tourism professionals to ponder and discuss with industry experts. State of Washington Tourism will host live webinars of the Tourism Skillshop on the third or fourth Thursday of every month from 10 to 11 a.m. These webinars are free and open to all tourism stakeholders. The webinars will also be recorded and shared with registrants as well as other users on the SWT YouTube channel. For tourism Skillshop and other industry updates, visit the SWT industry website, sign up for the industry update newsletter, and follow SWT on LinkedIn. Tourism stakeholders may also join the SWT Facebook group for further discussion on topics related to the Tourism Skillshop and other industry news, issues, and events. Now, let's talk about today's webinar. This is the first webinar in the Tourism Skillshop in 2024, and it will focus on Tourism Ambassador Programs. These programs can be tailored to fit any budget or need of a destination community. Whether having to do with unified messaging or hospitality training, Tourism Ambassador Programs play an important role in destination management that every stakeholder should carefully consider. At the very least, these programs provide a pool of seasoned volunteers to help with signature events and welcome visitors. However, with the right investment, these programs can achieve so much more in regard to workforce quality, community pride, and tourism advocacy. I would like to welcome the guest speakers for today's webinar, Michael Dorie, Jeff Bowe, and Kasee Palmer. Michael is a partnership manager at Visit Mobile, Alabama. Yes, that's right. We have someone a long way from Washington visiting us today. He brings 19 years of industry knowledge and connections to the Tourism Ambassador Program in his community. He takes pride in creating a fun and supportive learning environment for participants in that program. Jeff is a 25-year travel industry veteran, currently serving as the Vice President of Sales and Development at Experience Olympia and Beyond, Thurston County's Visitor and Convention Bureau. Having held a variety of hotel management positions previously, Jeff's current body of work includes attracting conferences, sporting events, and group tours to the Olympia region. Jeff is also in charge of Thurston County's Certified Tourism Ambassador Training Program, a nationally recognized accreditation through the Tourism Ambassador Institute. More than 300 hospitality professionals have been certified in the Thurston County's program. They include Jeff, myself, and Kasee Palmer. Kasee is the Director of Sales at the DoubleTree Hotel in Olympia with 13 years of hospitality experience in her career. She earned her CTA pin in 2021 and is an avid supporter of tourism in her town. As a mentor and leader, she encourages other industry folks to pursue the CTA accreditation for personal and professional growth. Panelists, thank you for joining us today. I hope you're excited to talk about tourism ambassador programs just as much as I am. I think the attendees are as well. So I will, before we dive into the guest speakers, I just want to give folks on the webinar just a little bit more context about these programs and some questions that we'll get into later in the webinar. So let me share my screen if I can. I will pull up a few slides for folks. Let's see here. Okay, folks, can you see my screen? Panelists, you can probably let me know. Is that good? All right, excellent. Now, folks, I think everyone on the call should be thinking about design, management, and funding when they're talking about tourism ambassador programs. Today, you'll see a huge range in the types of programs, the investment in time and resources from Visit Mobile, Alabama, a homegrown tourism ambassador program, and then something a little different here in Olympia that Jeff will talk about a little later. But you always have to think about value for visitors, visitor experience, visitor satisfaction, but also the residents too. How does this program interact with community members? Does it develop us or foster a sense of pride in the community? I think that argument has been made with a number of champions for tourism ambassador programs. But also industry workers, how do you keep them engaged? How do you give them a sense of workforce satisfaction or pride, help develop the workforce quality and skills? So I think that's also very important. And guess what? SWT has destination planning and development grants that can help with the startup costs for tourism ambassadors like these in your community. So a few design components that we'll touch on today. Again, these are the things that I think about when the discussion of tourism ambassador programs come to mind. If I could have construct the perfect program, I would probably include all, or if not some, of these components. So knowledge of tourism assets in the region, tourism impact I think is very important, going beyond facts and figures, but also kind of connecting ambassadors to travel trends and visitor profiles, getting to know the visitors in your destination, trying to understand their needs and interests will kind of help you with that overall quality of service, customer service, which is important, I think, is as a form of quality control across the destination, and will help with the destination's brand and character. And social inclusion training, I think this is also something to consider too in the age of cultural sensitivity, diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility. I think all of those matter now more than ever. With a diverse range of tourism stakeholders, but also visitors to destinations. And in some destinations here, especially in Washington too, we're focused on responsible travel and visitor education. So how to come to our destination, enjoy it, but then also kind of perhaps leave it in a better place than when folks found it. If I'm thinking of recreation dependent outdoor recreation destinations in Washington State. I think that also goes to say that, you know, folks might not be looking for a fully fledged tourism ambassador program. Maybe they're looking, especially in rural destinations with outdoor recreational assets, maybe they're looking for trail ambassadors. Maybe they're looking for river ambassadors. Maybe there's a hybrid between all of these programs, these volunteer programs. There's a happy medium. So think about that as you have these conversations with local stakeholders in your area. Again, I just want to remind folks of the tourism stakeholders involved in this decision. It shouldn't just be all visitor focused. You should include industry folks, employers, how to get community members involved. I think if all of these folks have a seat at the table and there's thorough discussion on how these programs are designed and managed, I think the buy-in will only help you in the long term, especially with institutional support, political support, but also funding. So I won't go into too much detail on each of these stakeholders, but again, you'll have to kind of be in touch with your local community and industry. And this is just my last slide, folks, before we kind of dive in to what the guest speakers have for us today. There's two destination planning and development grants that I think would be great to help fund tourism ambassador programs like the ones that we'll talk about today. We have the technical assistance grant and tourism regeneration. Technical assistance can help you bring in a local or tourism expert from outside of your area to kind of piece together a destination, or excuse me, a tourism ambassador program that works for you. There is no match required for these grants, and I believe the technical assistant grant is up to $15,000. Folks can ask up to $15,000. The tourism regeneration grant, that also is a grant that can be used to help develop a tourism ambassador program. It's focused on fostering safer, more inclusive and sustainable visitor experience. I think the tourism ambassador program can kind of fit in that definition if it's kind of written the right way in a grant application. So here are just a few avenues to help fund and design tourism ambassador programs in your neck of the woods. If you have any questions about tourism ambassador programs, feel free to follow up with our guest speakers today. If you have questions about the grants, you can contact Tamara Rice, who was I introduced earlier in the webinar. And Tamara, you can put your contact information in the chat. We also have a dedicated page on the SWT industry website for grants. So you can also get more information there. Okay, folks, I've kind of laid the groundwork. I've given a little bit of context before we go into a deeper dive to tourism ambassador programs in Mobile, Alabama, and Olympia, Washington. Folks on the call will get to compare and contrast the two programs, starting with the first, the program in Mobile that was developed there a few years ago. So Michael, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for inviting me to participate. The Tourism Ambassador Program is something that we're very proud of, and any opportunity to share our lessons learned and mistakes made and so on, because it has been a very valuable tool for us. And as the current director, again, I take a lot of pride in that. I think you mentioned we started it back in 2016, and it has kind of evolved and grown. I know being an in-house produced product, it's very robust today, and I'll talk about that in just a moment, but it didn't start that way. It started very small with just some ways to interact with our community, and it has slowly grown and grown to what it is today. And really what it is today is it's a 6-week program. So we just launched this week our signups for our spring class. We do 2 classes a year. We do a spring class and a fall class, and we usually limit it to 25 individuals in each class. So we're taking our registrations and applications for our spring class now. When I say it's 6 weeks, it's really only 3 in-person days. So the very first day, for example, in the spring will be April 3rd, and our 25 attendees will show up in that morning. And what we do is we really get to know each other. We play some kind of get to know you games, find out where everybody's coming from, what industry they're in, because we really do promote this to our community members as much as our hospitality partners and things like that. So we feel like this is a great education for people within the community and other industries. So we play some get to know you games and kind of see where everybody's coming from and their knowledge of local tourism. And then we really spend that first day kind of giving them the background. We bring in our CEO, our senior vice president, our sales, some of our sales team, our marketing communications team, and talk about what Visit Mobile does on a daily basis. Because as many of you know, most of our work, the locals don't always see what we're doing. We're trying to bring people into the community. So our advertising and marketing efforts are spent elsewhere. So we gotta give them that baseline knowledge of what we do to bring tourists to our city. We also bring in other folks within our community, our general manager of our convention center, the head of our sports authority, maybe somebody from Parks and Rec or other city departments, and talk about all the things that they do in an effort to attract people to our city and, of course, enhance the quality of life of our residents. So day one kind of consists of that. And we do some other things and just kind of give them a background in tourism. And it usually starts at 9 a.m. and we'll usually run till about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So it's pretty much a full day. And so they do that first day in person. We go over the program, the expectations, the requirements, so on. And then one of the key things that they'll walk away from that first day with is what we call our local attractions pass. And it's basically free admission to all of our top attractions. And so the ambassadors get that pass that includes them and a guest. And so they get to go out and explore and visit many of our top attractions. There's 20 attractions listed on the pass. Well, the requirement for the course is that over the 6 weeks, they need to visit in person at least 6 or more of those attractions. And then we give them a little profile sheet, a little questionnaire that they fill out after they visit it. You know, what did you like? What did you like?
Michael, they get to take a guest as well. It's not just
them. They do.
We
learned that. We originally we would give them just one ticket, and people would say, well, it wasn't the same. You know, because when tourists travel, you know, there are solo travelers, but typically they go with a spouse or a family or a friend, and it's part of that shared experience that really makes it worthwhile. So we found that the ticket for 2 was the way to go, and you know, so that gets them out to explore all of our attractions, and then they write up a little summary. You know, what did they learn? What did they like? You know, feedback, maybe something they didn't like. So it's an opportunity for us to get real honest feedback from a visitor perspective. So then they get about a couple weeks of exploration. We do a couple online quizzes throughout the program. Okay. So you usually get an email on Monday that'll have like 10 or 12 questions related to the city, and they have till like Friday to turn it back in. We also give them, I probably should have mentioned this on day one, we give them I don't know if you guys can see it, it kind of blends in with my background up there, but
there's the binder.
There it is. It's a binder, and it goes through, we talk about the history of our city. You know, we were founded in 1702, so we've got 320 plus years of history. And so we highlight the main stories, the important things that people should know. We talk about the arts in our city. We talk about Mardi Gras. We're the oldest Mardi Gras celebration in the nation. So those are, you know, kind of that baseline knowledge of the things that those of us in our organization just, you know, we talk about them every day. So kind of laying down that tourism baseline, give them the resources through the book, they do the online quizzes, and then they get to go out and explore. And then about 3 weeks in, we'll have another in-person day, which is kind of the same schedule, about a 9 to 3. We do provide lunch on all these days.
Oh, excellent.
So that's always fun. We try to do some different things with that. I'll talk about that here in just a second. But the second day is really just kind of a kind of touching base. You know, it's an opportunity for the ambassadors to share, where have you been? What did you learn? What did you like? Where have you been? You know, and then kind of get each other excited. Ooh, I didn't go to that place, but it sounds like I really should. It sounds like you had a really good time, and get them to go out and experience all of our stuff. At that point, we kind of check in, see where we're at on quizzes, make sure everybody's up to date, no one's falling behind. And then I know the last couple of classes, we'll usually incorporate some kind of a tour. Maybe we've got a lot of different local tour companies that maybe are not included on our attractions pass. So Visit Mobile will coordinate. We've coordinated a historic trolley tour that picks us up after lunch. We get on and we do a 1 to 1.5 hour little historic tour of our city. Or we've done some walking tours. I think this year we're going to do a nature tour out on one of our pontoon boats.
Cool.
We've done about a variety of different things. So we try to mix it up, and it's a way for us as an organization from Visit Mobile to highlight our partners. So not only are we sending them out to the attractions, but we're using local partners for the venue space, for where we host these meetings. We don't do them at our office. We do it at the back room of a restaurant or an event venue, and it's a way for these 25 ambassadors to learn that.
And these venues are given up free of charge or at a discounted rate?
Again, lessons learned is we used to go out and we'd hire local venues and do all this. And so what we found is most will give us space if we get our food and beverage from them.
Yep. Sure.
So like I said, we do incorporate lunch. So we'll usually find a restaurant or a venue that has a space. And we say, hey, you give us the space. We'll do all of our morning coffee service through you. We'll provide all of our lunches through you, afternoon snacks, and so on. So they are actually bringing in some revenue from us. And we usually do these during business hours on a weekday. So it's not taking away peak Friday or Saturday night venue space from them.
Sure.
And we've made some different barters, if you will, and arrangements, but we try to mix it up and share the love and use different partners each class, highlighting different places. And many of our ambassadors would be like, I never ate here before, but the food was so good, I can't wait to come back. Or I didn't even know they had this private room back here. I have a baby shower next month, and I'm going to totally try and book this. So,
well, that's fascinating, Michael. I love the experiential or the learning from each other and community building. I guess my follow-up question, do you do any kind of, other than the quizzes, do you do any other kind of like online training, videos or things like that?
we do not. Well, we are coordinating. We're developing a video training program that'll be kind of a boiled down version of this, if you will. But as far as this program, it's all in person. It's all experiential. We want people to go out firsthand. And when I say lessons learned, when we first started the program, it wasn't that way. I know the first couple of years is we would do a trade show style where we would have all the attractions and restaurants come to the convention center and set up a little table. And then the ambassadors would walk around the room and talk to all of the venues, and everybody give their 1 minute little elevator pitch about, my attraction's the greatest. You'll learn so much about nature, or come try my cheeseburger. It's the best in the city. And it just didn't land.
Yeah.
And so by having the ambassadors actually go to those places and take that nature tour or actually eat that cheeseburger, now it's ingrained, and they can then tell other people about it that, this is the best boat tour. This is the best cheeseburger in the city. And I know that because I ate every bite, licked the plate, and, was ready to order a second one.
And so folks learn from you, but they also learn from each other. And so another follow-up question for you, and I'll give the same question to Jeff. How do you keep tourism ambassadors that went through this program a year or two ago engaged? How do you keep them up to date on new attractions, travel trends, trainings, things like that?
We do a monthly newsletter that we send out directly to our ambassadors, just to kind of keep them in the loop of what's happening. And then we do reach out to them and ask them to participate. In being a volunteer, we get big conventions that will come in, and they're looking for people on the street to direct traffic. Or if you've all been to a big conference, everyone's trying to register, and we'll set up an info table where we're, answering city specific, how do I get to the hotel from here? What's the best transportation to the airport? I've got like 30 minutes. Is there somewhere I can go grab lunch? Is there a pharmacy downtown? And so our ambassadors set up, and they love it. They love participating, and they love sharing their knowledge. Everyone loves to be, the go-to person,
Yeah, for sure.
So everyone likes to be able to make somebody's day. And so we find that they really thrive on that. So we constantly try and engage them with volunteer opportunities post ambassador class.
Great idea. And these people, the breakdown in who they are, you know, they could be industry workers, but you've told me that a lot of them are retirees, realtors. What's the makeup of your
I
tourism
look at the
ambassadors?
last class we did back in the fall because that's one that's fresh in my mind. Of the 25 people, there was a handful of real estate agency, realtors. There was a handful of retirees. There was a couple college students. There were a couple people that were in the hotel or tourism field. But what I found, those folks were maybe not necessarily new to the industry, but they were new to the city.
I see.
Maybe they came from Hilton in a different city, but they came to Mobile, and so they weren't locals, so they didn't really have that local knowledge of the attractions and the restaurants and the lay of the land. So I felt like they really benefited from the ambassador program.
Excellent. And so industry support, you have that, I assume, as well, even if there's not a majority of industry workers in the program.
Correct. And when we look at, obviously the hospitality industry, the attractions in the restaurants in particular, the hotels like it if they've got front desk staff or some services staff, but the hotels the restaurants and the attractions are really the big beneficiaries of the program, I feel, because we are highlighting them. And I've done and delivered tours all over the country from northern Minnesota all the way to South Alabama. And I often find where I go is that sometimes the locals are not always the most knowledgeable about all the tourist attractions and things to do because they just don't participate. And so when we are able to open their eyes and show them that, hey, there's a ton of stuff to do in our city, and it really, once you flip that switch, it's a game changer, and
Well,
they really approach it differently.
yeah, let's kind of focus on that as the last question, and then we'll kind of move on to Jeff. But the impact that this program's had in the destination community, but more specifically with community engagement, community relations, support for elected officials. Can you kind of focus in on that and tell us a little bit more about that in your destination?
Our elected officials love it. Our mayor is one of the biggest advocates. He actually shows up on our third in-person day. We do a class, we do a wrap up, we do roundtable discussions, and then we do a little graduation ceremony and little celebration. And our mayor comes every time to actually give them their pins and congratulate them on becoming a city ambassador. So he's a huge advocate. We have city councilmen. We have county commissioners that are advocates. A number of them will send people from their staff or their office through the program, just so they can really see that side of tourism. So we've got great buy-in from our city leaders and elected officials, which really helps us and really motivates us to keep pushing it forward and expanding it.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael. We're going to
Yeah.
save a few more questions for the end. Jeff, let's turn to you. Kind of what we talked about earlier with Michael, the history of the program. You were there in Olympia when this program was up and running. Can you tell us what this program, what need this program fulfills in your community, for your community, but also for the industry?
Absolutely. And Matthew, thanks again for having me as a panelist and for putting this together. One thing I love about Michael's program and some similarities that we have is that we are both super passionate about telling the tourism story. And that's really the impetus of our program. I was here in 2019 when we started our program. And we looked at a lot of different models. We had a steering committee that researched thoroughly how we wanted to implement this. And by the way, this came about as an initiative to educate our community on the importance of tourism. That was the initial impetus. And then, 2019 was a terrible time to launch any kind of a program. Everything shut down and we couldn't do the classes that we wanted to do. We started to kind of go online a little bit with it so that we could get it going and not let all the momentum stop. But what happened after the pandemic was pretty significant. We saw our hospitality community really suffering. Even though people could go back and eat in restaurants and they were traveling again, the hotels were having trouble with staffing. They were just losing staff and they were losing them to other industries, and they were even calling employees back, and employees were saying, hey, we're out of hospitality. We've found another job and it's better hours and this and that. And I think the problem with that is that we just haven't done a great job of telling the community, particularly young professionals, how fun our jobs really are. I mean, no offense to anybody on the call, but we're not selling insurance here. We're selling
No.
travel. You know, and I think we need to really grasp onto that and be passionate about what we do and really educate the community, particularly young professionals, as to what they can do if they stick with hospitality. So after the pandemic, our program became a program to reach out to the hotels, to the restaurants, to the retailers, and to train those people and to get them excited about our industry and to make sure that when hotels hire people, those people stick around because they've gotten training, whether it's from their brand or from us, but they understand now what tourism about and how it can really be fun. And so that's what our program has become. And it's a line item in our business plan now is community outreach and workforce development. And so 2019, we did all this research. We looked at in-person programs. We looked at online programs. We looked at building our own program from scratch.
Sure,
And by the
yeah.
way, Michael is an absolute champion for doing that. That is not an easy thing to do.
I agree.
In fact, it's why we didn't do it, because we're a smaller DMO. You know, at the time we were looking at this program, we were just 6 people. And so we were trying to figure out how to get this program going. Failure was not an option. We were not going to not do the program. We needed to figure out how we could do it. And so it ended up being, number one, we wanted to be in person. And particularly after the pandemic, the online stuff just wasn't going to stick. Everybody was tired of sitting on Zoom calls. So we knew we needed to be in person. The second thing is to really focus on our hospitality community and getting them trained. And so we went out to the hospitality community, pushed this program out. We offered scholarships to kind of get it off the ground and get people coming to classes. Now we do 4 classes a year, 4 public classes, and that's in addition to some of the groups that we train exclusively. We've trained our Chambers Leadership Thurston County group, and that's kind of how we capture some of the other community leaders that are maybe non-hospitality. We've trained a class of realtors because, as all of us know, it's a similar message. It's this,
For sure.
Their clients want to live here instead of just stay here, but it's a similar message. We've trained our Port of Olympia staff.
Excellent.
And our next foray, which is most exciting to me, is we have actually trained CTE students with the Tumwater School District. And these kids are now going to be running a retail store to sell their school swag. And then there's a little corner of visitor information. And so I personally trained 33 high school students, getting them excited about hospitality and retail as well. And now they're out there doing it. And so to me, that's the most fulfilling piece of what we're doing. But to talk about the format of the class, really similar to
Michael's, but it's a little bit more, it's condensed, right, Jeff? You'll talk about that. It's not a 6-week program, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So we start by giving them this binder. It doesn't show up too well. And they sign up for the class. They get the binder. It's sort of pre-read material, usually, 3 to 4 hours of reading before the class. The class is a 4-hour class. And in that class, we give them a rundown of sort of the tourism trends, both nationally and locally. But we talk a lot about what there is to see and do in the community, with the idea that a lot of these residents just haven't gotten out, to Michael's point earlier. And one of the things I love to hear is, I've been living here 20 years. I didn't know we had this. That happens 3 or 4 times every class. And so we get through this class, we talk about things to see, things to do. We talk about events. We talk about how to build an itinerary when you're communicating with a customer or a guest. And then our final module is about 20 minutes on customer service and learning to respond to objections and using empathy and some of the basic skills that I think end up
everyone should have. Yeah, and I remember that, Jeff.
To be honest,
asking the right hey, if a visitor comes up to you and say, "Where's the best place to eat?" It shouldn't just be a one-word answer. Hey, what are you interested in? Are you looking for family-friendly options? There's a range. You should think about X, Y, or Z to kind of involve all of your partners as opposed to just focus on one, or just to help with visitor management, dispersal, instead of going to this one attraction or this one place during, dinner time or lunchtime. You should think about these other places that are less crowded or just as good, or hidden gems, things like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's really focused on the hospitality professionals, and then we've been able to attract a lot of the residents. You know, the key is creating a positive message. We're all in tourism is really what we're sharing with people. Even if you're not working in a hotel or a restaurant, you're talking to your friends and family that may be coming from out of the area. We want you to sell this area as well and be literal tourism champions, tourism ambassadors. So we quickly realized that we could not, a 6-person staff could not put together a binder like this and try to administer the program on our own. So we searched out the Tourism Ambassador Institute, which had a sort of a plug and play program. They sent out a group of writers and they wrote this manual for us. They did tours of the area so that they understood what they were writing about. They talked to community leaders. So they did all of that heavy lifting for us. And that's really what we're paying for is the rights to use that material and to execute her program.
And that's what you're paying for. But these ambassadors also have some skin in the game for their accreditation and their pin that I see that you're wearing too. Tell us more about the payment plan that ambassadors have to contribute on a yearly basis. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they pay an initial fee to be in the class, that covers the class. And then since this is a nationally accredited certification, once they pass a short exam at the end of that 4-hour class, and it's an open book exam, so we try not to make it too stressful, they get a pin that looks like this on my lapel. They get a certificate. They get to use the letters CTA after their name. But the most important benefit that I've noted is that they have access now to a database of other CTAs around the country. So
well said.
If they want to connect with somebody at a museum in San Francisco, let's say they're in the museum industry, they can connect with that CTA and share ideas. We also have a concierge program. So we have area businesses that have contributed, we call them freebies and discounts. So, and this is specifically for our CTAs. So once they're a CTA, they can go into the website and they can see what these offers are around our community, and they can go out and visit these business owners and experience it firsthand so that they can share the positive experience with their guests and their constituents. So it's really a wraparound program. They are required to recertify since it's an accredited certification. We do ask that they go out and visit at least 5 attractions throughout the course of the year and then log those experiences. We also include volunteerism, and I use our CTAs quite a bit for volunteer. Michael said events, those are the prime things that we do. We actually had CTAs handle registration for us at one of our events. That was kind of both a time and a money saver for those of you CMOs out there that run events. Just finding people to run a registration table can be expensive if it's not your own staff. So I've had them run visitor information booths for us at various events. Most recently, a huge fast pitch tournament we had here in the county, and so those families and teams could come and get information about where to eat, you know, where to hike between their games. All the stuff that we are supposed to be doing as DMOs, and the CTAs are really just an extension of that. They're a highly trained extension of that. So we're really proud of the program and what it's been able to do for us. And I want to make sure Kasee gets a chance to talk because she's one of them who has been a CTA now since 2021. And you know, we think that we're really we think we're really contributing to the hospitality experience by helping keep our hospitality professionals trained and coached up on sort of best practices, and frankly, giving them something for their staff to get excited about as they continue in their career.
I totally agree. Thanks, Jeff. Yes, we'll move on to Kasee. Ms. Palmer, are you there?
I am here. Can you see me or hear me?
We can hear you and we can see you. Excellent.
Hey, there I am.
Thanks, Jeff, for that wonderful introduction. Kasee, I know you and Jeff know each other fairly well. We know each other very well. But tell us, the audience, a little bit more. What does the Tourism Ambassador Program or your certificate, your CTA accreditation mean to you?
Well, it was a wonderful experience. I've got 13 years in hospitality, and the biggest thing is, at least with our brand that I work for now, Hilton, the little things mean everything. And so every experience with a guest is different, but you want it to be kind of fine-tuned into what they need. And you want them to be able to come back and stay, and they had a great experience and they want to know like why they would want to come back and experience more. So being able to take that class with Jeff and learn about all different avenues that even I hadn't thought of. I mean, my favorite part of being in hospitality is being a tourist in my own hometown. Like, I love to be able to experience why we're all here and the beautiful area that we're in. I love travel as well. So I love that we have that network with CTA to be able to reach out to other ambassadors in other towns. Because if I'm not at work, I am probably on a plane somewhere else to go exploring. But it's been a great program. My front desk staff, they will grab me and be like, we have a certified tourism ambassador who can help you out with all of your experience needs while you're here in town. And as our front desk team gets really bought into the hospitality world and really wants to grow their knowledge, they've been excited to sign up and do the training as well.
Excellent.
It's great. It's qualifying questions. It's fine-tuning each of these experiences to make it, where's the best hike? Where's the best, like, what's Olympia known for? I mean, we're right on the waterfront, so seafood, of course, but then we have also like dietary restriction places. We have all sorts of like different avenues to experience and explore. We have kayaking, hiking, so many things.
It's a great area. Well, and that's, you kind of brought up another question that or an issue that I wanted to ask a question about. So you work for Hilton, and I assume there's some training as part of as being a staff member and employee of Hilton. Do you see the tourism ambassador training program with Thurston County? You don't see that in competition with the training that Hilton provides. You see it, do they complement each other? It's complementary.
Yeah,
Excellent.
they're totally complementary. So a big thing that our Hilton training is anticipating guest needs. So like being able to read body language, see when they're needing something or when they want to be left alone, but having the tourism information and resources in that binder has been wonderful to read people and be able to understand like we would in any hospitality customer service experience, but then have that knowledge base to really qualify what they're looking for. Are they indoorsy people? Are they outdoorsy people? Is it a family or is it a romantic couple or a single traveler? Like what would you want to do while you're in town, and what kinds of things are noteworthy that make Olympia special?
Excellent. Yeah. So yes, they kind of build these trainings, or these programs kind of build on each other. They enhance the overall knowledge and skill set of an employee, and it helps with the well-roundedness of the tourism, the destination community, and the tourism assets there. Excellent. Well then, so then how do you and your general manager, how do you encourage participation in the CTA program? These happen during work hours, right? Are there, and I assume these folks are paid during their day shifts to take these programs. What else do you do to encourage training in the Tourism Ambassador Program?
Well, the main thing is just supporting, like giving them access and the knowledge that program is a resource to be utilized. If it's going to be a benefit for the hotel, of course, we want to support them, making sure that the shift is covered by someone else so that they are absolutely able to dedicate those 4 hours to be wherever that class happens to be held. We've worked with Jeff to do trade out. So we'll actually have the meeting on site here and donate the meeting space and coffee service to get some people certified. And then, I mean, they get to go out and experience all of the different partnerships that we have in the area. And they get to do the things that they wouldn't typically do while standing at the front desk or in our breakfast area. And just, they get to make their job more fun.
Well,
because
I
we know more
actually,
people.
yeah, exactly. I was going to ask you, what advice would you give potential folks interested in this? But yeah, hey, it's fun. It'd make your job that much more interesting and engaging. Any other advice or recommendations for folks?
I mean, it's a great program. I have enjoyed it. We actually just, a few of our CTAs met up last night, and we were talking and collaborating about how to make partnerships better and what we can do to kind of grow our network and just work together as best as possible. And it's just great to get together and think of different avenues of what makes Olympia fun, what makes Thurston County fun, and new businesses come into the area.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Kasee. Excellent. Well, folks, we are just perfect. We're kind of timed this just right. We have 10, 11 minutes for group discussion and questions from the audience. Let me bring back all of our speakers so you can see their beautiful faces. So folks, this is an opportunity as folks in the audience are kind of thinking about questions to ask. I'll just kind of, I've already asked Kasee, but Jeff and Michael, what advice would you give to tourism stakeholders out there thinking about developing a program like this, whether it is a full-fledged tourism ambassador program or just training modules or whatever else? Michael, how about we start with you?
Are you looking for advice? Do it. Do something, right? You don't have to have a fully fledged program, but if you're looking to do some community engagement or partner engagement, start small. Start with some networking events. Start with some educational powwows, if you will, opportunities to bring people together. As Jeff mentioned earlier, we work in a really fun industry, and it's not hard for me to talk to hoteliers and people in the industry and say, hey, I want you to come share your story, right? Come talk to people about what you do. They love it. They love every opportunity. I get them text messages. Hey, when are you doing that next class? Count me in, right? So even if you start small, and you'll just find as people get engaged and work together, it'll spin off and it'll just, organically just grow. And we found that that's what works for our community, and obviously every community is a little bit different, so the direction it goes might vary from city to city.
Excellent, thank you. Jeff, what about you?
I think it's really important to have those very specific conversations with your own stakeholders, whether they're board members, whether they're elected officials. People that are involved with tourism need to understand what an ambassador program actually is and how far you can take it. I'm so excited to hear that Michael has the mayor speaking at his events. I think that's incredible, and I think that should be aspirational for all of us. But it's really important, particularly when, for those of us that are funded by lodging taxes and so forth, it's important that we are stewards of those dollars that are spent. And so there needs to be a tie back to, hey, if we train our hospitality professionals, if we train our community to talk positively about our destination, and if more people are going to come here and stay longer and spend money, that's the message we need to get out there. And it seems basic to us because all of us speak it every day, but you'd be surprised how many community members don't quite get that. And I always use the example of, certainly the pandemic, but, I'm old enough to remember September 11th when hotels shut down for 2 months. That was nothing compared to the pandemic, but we saw what happened to our community, particularly our hospitality community being closed and people losing their jobs. So we need to remind our stakeholders of that. Before you design any kind of ambassador program, make sure that they're bought into that, and then it'll make it a lot easier for you to execute your program if you have that buy-in.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeff. I'm looking at the chat and Q&A. Tamara, do you have any questions from the audience? I don't see any on my end. Maybe we can turn to the panelists again.
Actually, sorry, Matt, I looked there and it looks like Jeff answered the one from Marcia. And there's another one from, oh, no, I think you guys have.
Okay. Well, this gives us opportunity for the panelists to ask questions of each other. So Jeff, Michael, Kasee, is there anything that you'd like to ask of each other and let the audience kind of lean in and kind of listen to your conversation?
I'm not sure. You know, we chatted a little bit the other day and kind of in preparation for this and kind of compared and contrasted. And I think at the end of the day, you know, we all have the same end goal. But like anything, just kind of experiencing different ways to get there. And as I mentioned a minute ago, I think every community is different. And I think having people like Jeff or that understand what their community wants and what they need and what their stakeholders want and need. I think that's a great, you know, launch point that would be good advice to anybody.
Excellent. Jeff, do you have anything to add? I think I have somebody else on the line that would love to comment, but I'll give you the floor first.
You know, no, I think one of the things I learned in talking with Michael and Kasee the other day was just the different approach. And I think that they're both correct. You know, our approach was sort of handling a need to train, you know, our guest services teams, the ones that are interacting with the public most often, the visiting public. And Michael's approach, I think, is more, I want to get mid-level managers and community leaders into the class so that we can educate our community. I think both are correct. I think it's just a matter of establishing what your priority will be. And I will say, I think we talked about this the other day, but I've had requests now from, you know, C-suite type individuals saying, hey, I want this training for my team, but you know, we don't really need to know where the best ice cream cone in town is. What we really want is economic development statistics. We want to know what's happening in Thurston County and what tourism trends are. We think that'll really help our business. And so for us, that's going to be you know, I think we called it a 2.0 you know, or a 400 level type class. So that would be aspirational for me. I would love to deliver that kind of stuff. So that would be next level stuff for us, is to make sure that we give every community member the training that they're needing, and that just makes us all look better as industry professionals.
Good point.
If I may, real quick, you just mentioned 2.0, and just to show the variances, we had people in our last class that inquired and said we wanted to tap 2.0. And in talking and discussing that almost looked more like a small group project where maybe they work with a local tour company to maybe create a new unique tour of some kind. So again, you mentioned a 2.0. Our 2.0 would be dramatically different, but still that same deeper dive and taking a topic and just really kind of fleshing it out. So I think that's interesting.
Mr. Bruno, Phil, you're on the line.
Hey.
You have you come with years of experience, hospitality training and knowledge, and you've actually been on a Skillshop about workforce recruitment and retention. So what do you have to offer on this topic?
Well, yeah, thanks for letting me chime in, and thanks for asking me to be part of it. I have to say, you know, I've worked with since 2000, I guess. I've developed programs for different DMOs around the country and 30 different communities and over 100,000 graduates, both online and live. And now we're offering hybrid. So with as many folks as I've worked with over the years, it is interesting that some of the things you guys have been talking about are true. You have to think of the fit first. You know, what are your goals? Can you do it all yourself? Do you want to learn the lessons, you know, and then keep going, or do you want to hire somebody with experience who can come in and help you? I've also heard today, you know, we've had people come in and write it for us and then we deliver it. Yeah, I've done all that too, which is good. You know, it all stays around and it lives. And I think, you know, now that we're involved, and I'm involved with Destinations International on the advocacy committee and on the community engagement committee, that it's so important for us to keep doing this work. And this space, visitor experience economy space, has become sexy nowadays to be a part of. So I'm still waiting, quite honestly, for all the money to come over from marketing to the visitor economy space, which it'll probably never happen. But, you know, I think we still deserve more funding to to get this work done and educate so many people in the community. First of all, our own hospitality community doesn't often know that they're part of the visitor economy. So in my programs, I make sure the first thing we do is welcome them and tell them what they're a part of and that what a DMO does for them, does for their community. And, you know, I've put programs in your own state there. As a matter of fact, you can't see me right now, but my shirt is the one I bought when I was up in Skagit County. It's called
Skagit County.
Visit Skagit Valley. And yeah, they're a brand new DMO. Anyway, I was up there last May to start their program off, and just after the Tulip Festival. And anyway, so I do a lot of what you all said, go around and meet everyone. I even interview workers and say, we're building a whole new tourism program, or at least a new training program. What do you want? So I did that in Spokane as well. So anyway, keep it up. Encourage everybody. Keep thinking, keep doing, keep trying. If I can help, please ask. If you just want to talk about it, if you're exploring, you know, I've got 44 years in the industry, and I'd be glad to help and, you know, come up and help you whatever you'd like, or at least just advice. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks, Phil.
Sure.
Well, folks, we are running out of time. I had a great webinar today with our panelists, Kasee, Michael, and Jeff. I hope you did too. Stay tuned for our next webinar in March. More information on that will come out in the March Industry Update newsletter. In the meantime, take care, and we'll see you again soon. Panelists, do you mind sticking on if you